One of the things we learned over time was to continue to improve performance, we have to look at what players want day in, day out in their equipment. So we keep finding in many cases, one of the things that we see with players is still wanting a draw bias tendency. So last year with some of our front to back weightings, we didn't have that capability very easily with the weighting. So what you see here with the new F7 lineup is the draw bias weight added to the front and back weights. So that's a really simple system. This is both the standard F7 and the F7 Plus, which gives us the capability to have the same story and the same ease of use in two different models. Last year we had the F6 and the F6 Plus with two different trajectories, two different technologies, and a little bit of a confusing story. The idea here was to make this simple and easy. And when we looked at the clubs that Ricky's playing, Ricky actually asked us for some draw bias. We look at a lot of our tour players you see on TV now with shot tracers and pro tracers. You're seeing players love the draw bias capability, even while they want low spin and distance. So we added that draw bias capability in the new F7 line. Well, in some cases, we saw some usage across the board. Normally, the challenge is when you make a sliding system, as a similar, you look at statistics, a bell curve, is most people end up putting it in the middle. So in many cases, the sliding systems, it's interesting because they don't really take effective use of it. But we found very good ability when you need a player who has specific launch conditions that those drivers work very well in terms of either front or back to maximize your performance. What we did with the F7 was we added in the Textreme carbon fiber crown that we had used on last year's LTD model. So Textreme is a thinner, lighter carbon fiber than the traditional carbon fibers, and it gives the ability to save more weight. It saves about 7 grams versus last year's F6 from a titanium crown. So the extra weight savings allowed us to put in the additional weight port and the additional weight to get more flexibility. Well, if you look at that, the last year was the carbon track. That was about an 8-gram system, but it was also complex on the inside to try and get the best sound out of that product. Anytime you have a track system, essentially you're taking the head that's a nice structure for sound and performance, and you're cutting a giant hole in it. And whenever you do that, you have to go back and basically repair that structure. So you're trying to minimize the weight used there, and in the end, it costs you a lot more money to do that versus a discrete weight system. Because you're also using the lighter crown versus titanium, you increase the inertia and lower the center of gravity. So all that gives us more performance. We're going to see 4 to 10 yards depending on the player, launch conditions, the setup. We also find a big benefit in adding the draw weight. That gives the ability to now have one driver that performs like 3 different drivers. So in this day and age of the retailers looking to minimize their exposure by different SKUs, we have one driver that does 3 different jobs, and that's a great benefit both to golfers and to the retailers. My favorite beer is a cold, wet one.